need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use a repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? ZT, my name is Carolyn, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. It is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the post sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net, so please do not transmit without direction from net control, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on the 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink nodes 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list, and please remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, or where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, what can you see in the sky tonight? A featured constellation or object or topic. Recent astronomical discoveries. Space exploration and space history. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. And astronomical questions and answers. And then a 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Let's start with the low frequency and short time check-ins. Please come with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Have any low power or short time check-ins?
Kilo Golf 5, Quebec, X-ray India, Glenn, short time.
We have KG5QXI, Glenn, and welcome to the net. Any other short time or low power check-in?
Foxtrot 5, Quebec, Delta, Quebec, Eric, Spring Park, Star Party, low power.
Yeah, we recognize KF5 QDQ, Eric, out at Spring Park. Bet you're having fun out there. All right, we'll move on to general check-ins. Again, please give your call, name, and location, please.
Yes. November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill Sterling.
Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. Alpha, Bravo, Alpha, Andre, in Dallas. This is Kilo Golf 5, Echo, India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas.
This Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray, Com, Louisville.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa, Mike, in Richardson.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Echo, Bravo, Bravo, David in Dallas.
Recognize these. Net recognizes N5BB Bill, NT5TM Tony, KL5ZBL Bill, N5ABA on KT5EIU David, and KE5ICX Tom, KT5P Mike, WP5OZL Brenda, W5EBB David. Do we have any other general check-ins?
India 5, Bravo, Bravo, X-ray, Chase, Dallas.
Alpha, November, Papa, Allen in Dallas.
Hey, we added the KI5BXX Chase and K5ANP Allen. All right, we'll move on to Echolink check-ins. Please come if you can by voice, or if not, in the text window. Echolink check-ins.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J, near Weatherford.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Charlie Tango, David in Frisco.
Five BBX with a correction on your earlier general check-in.
Oh, did I get... Okay, go ahead.
I'm not sure if it was misspoken or if it was written down incorrectly, but it was KI5BBX, not KI5BXX. KI5BBX is correct.
Okay, thank you for the correction there. And, yeah, I wrote down BXX. All right, well, thank you. And the net recognizes by Echolink so far KG5BZWJ, KG5ZCT, David. And also, I notice over here we've got KF5PDS, Billy, and let's see, K5JDW, John, and let's see, N5YEO, Stephen in San Antonio. Let's see if I missed anybody. By any method at all. But we'll have further round of check-ins as we go along, and so let's start with the general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for the net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or just general interest to licensed hams.
Tango Mike.
NT5TM, Tony, go ahead.
I'd like to remind everyone to check out the Afterglow Movie Facebook group as well as W5FC.org. There are lots of announcements about upcoming club activities and tonight's Afterglow Movie available. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club is still looking for volunteers for a couple of upcoming events. The soonest one is this Tuesday. We're looking for folks to present at the club's show and tell. We're going to have a show and tell night for our next meeting program. You don't have to have a whole presentation, just anything. A cool diode, a neat handy-talkie, an antenna, a strange cable. Anything you'd like to show off that is ham radio related that you can talk about for a minute or two is welcome. Please sign up at W5FC.org. Are also still interested in volunteers for the annual Life Walk event in Echolink Park that we support. You can also sign up for this at W5FC.org. This is a morning event on Sunday, runs about 9 to 1 or 9 to 3, depending on your position. But you don't have to have a lot of equipment. You don't have to have a lot of experience. You just have to have an HT and some enthusiasm. So I may have bobbled that a little bit, but we're looking for volunteers for Life Walk on Sunday, October 7th, and we'd love to have your help. Bring an HT and a smile. This is
Thank you for that, Tony. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, go ahead.
I have no questions, but I have another amateur radio news item.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, this is N5BB. The American Radio Relay League announced they have a new chief executive officer. Howard Michelle, I think it's how it's pronounced. No, Mickle. It's pronounced Mickle, rhymes with nickel. Howard Mickle, WB2ITX from Massachusetts, will be American Radio Relay League new CEO starting on October the 15th. The previous CEO resigned. That was Tom Gallagher, NY2RF. He resigned in January, and there was a temporary CEO in place until the new one was announced. The new one, Howard Mickle, has a lot of experience in engineering and amateur radio, and was the CEO of the IEEE back 3 years ago. He's a retired U.S. Air Force officer, pilot, satellite launch director, engineer, and engineering manager. This is N5BB.
Thank you for that, Bill. And again, any questions for him? JDW on Echolink also said there's a triathlon. I'm not sure where, looking for radio operators. I tell you, John, that website you give, if you could forward that to Tom, or maybe Tom could just copy it off of that, and maybe put on, I don't know, Tom, could you put it on the club website?
Absolutely. Send me the information, either link it through Echolink or send it to Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray at yahoo.com, and I'll make sure that happens. KE5I6.
It's in the text chat, the Echolink text chat window, and he says it's in Plano.
All right, got it, and I see it now. KE5I6.
Okay, John, we'll see what we can do there. And all right, this is KC50ZT, and I also want to announce, if you're interested in satellites, we have the AMSAT, Radio Amateur Satellite Group. They have 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. For that one, you need Echolink installed, be registered, and you can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. And they have a live audio link available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. And that net comes from Houston. And then we have the Dallas AMSAT net for this area every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater. That's 147.14 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 and, of course, a positive offset. And, of course, we have the DARC nets on Mondays. The first week, that'll be this week, the Ham Fixins net. And then second week, MCOM 101, third week, Ham Fixins, fourth week, GeekNet. And Wednesdays, the first and third week, we have Veterans Net. Of course, Saturday night, the Night of Nets, the TechNet at 7, Skynet at 9, and the Afterglow at 10:30. And every night we have the National Traffic System Net, the DFW Metroplex Net at 6:30 p.m. On this repeater, and everybody's welcome to check into any or all of these nets. And speaking of the Afterglow movie, Tom, would you like to give the information on that? KC50ZT.
Carolyn, this is KE5ICX. This is my one and only announcement for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. If everybody's ready, here it is. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Orbit Jet XD2. Its two-season mission to seek out new life and punch it in the face to boldly spread poor production TV where it's never been before. Join us for the Afterglow Movie outing. This time, we head to the cardboard stars for Space Ranger Law Enforcement for our Afterglow Movie Net. Menace from Outer Space. That's Menace from Outer Space from 1956. Tonight at 10:30 p.m. That's it from me, and that's enough. KE5I6.
This is WB50ZL.
Go ahead, Brenda.
I'd like to make an announcement, if I might, about an upcoming event at the Frontiers of Flight Museum. You may have seen the movie Hidden Figures or read the book. One of those NASA engineers who is in the book, but not in the movie, is named Christine Darden. She will be at the Frontiers of Flight Museum on Tuesday, September 18th at 11 o'clock in the morning for a luncheon. It's a fundraiser, so it's $50 a person, but you do get lunch. Anyway, Christine Darden was NASA, had a 40-year career with NASA, and she was one of the world's experts on sonic boom prediction, sonic boom minimization, and supersonic wing design. So she's pretty interesting. Go to flightmuseum.com if you want to learn more about it. This is WB50ZL.
Well, thank you for that, Brenda. Does anyone need any pills? At this time, do we have anybody else wishing to check in? Please come with your call, your name, and location, please. I guess we don't. All right. Next section, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Do we have anyone on frequency that can talk about the TAS of Dallas? Well, this is the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. Their monthly meetings are held on the fourth Friday of every month, except December, at the University of Texas at Dallas campus in Richardson. The meeting begins at 7:30 p.m. in the Science Learning Center building. on the campus map, that's SLC. And what's important, only parking lots H, I, or J. Any parking anywhere else on campus can result in a ticket. And the meeting includes programs presented by members or guest speakers, a slideshow of the constellation of the month, and items for sale such as t-shirts, books, and observing aids. You can find out more about the TAS of Dallas at www.texasastro, all one word, texasastro.org. And they also host observing parties every Saturday night, beginning at sunset and concluding around 10 p.m. Each week's a different location, and you can get this from their website, the selection calendar, and go to there for complete details. And apparently tonight the star party is at Spring Park. Is that right, Eric? It may have been short time, but anyway, you can go to the link and get that information. And all right, we'll move on to National Space Society events. N5BB, would you like to take that? KC50ZD.
Yes, Carolyn. Thank you. This is N5BB. Well, I've only got really one new item. I gave quite a few things last week. And the only new item, or it's kind of a repeat of an old one, is the National Space Society next meeting is going to be a week from tomorrow. It's always, the local North Texas chapter always meets on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. So the meeting will be a week from tomorrow, Sunday, September the 9th at 3:30 p.m. at the Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183 in Beltline in Irving, across the street from Irving Mall. If anyone has questions, they can contact me, N5BB, at arrl.net. I won't be there since I'll be at the airport getting ready to get on an airplane on a business trip. N5BB, that's all I got that's new.
Thank you for that, Bill. And all right, we will move on to our discussion topic for this evening. And I just called it two comets, but there's exciting news about two comets. One is in our sky now, and then one about to be. That'll be in December. But the first one you've probably heard of. It's Comet. This is a full name, 21P stroke Giacobini-Zinner. This is a parent object of our Draconid meteor shower, and it's making its close approach. It's being picked up with small telescopes now. It's about to come closer to Earth than it has in 72 years. With an orbital period of 6.6 years, it's a regular visitor to our planet's night skies. And I'll say GZ for short, is making a favorable approach at this apparition. It's passing just 58.6 million kilometers over the top of our heads on September 10th and 11th that night. At the same date, it reaches perihelion, or the closest approach to the sun. In late August, the comet glows at magnitude 7.5, and there was some observations, and they expect it to peak at around 7, magnitude 7 this month. We'll get to the other comet later, but it's called Vertanen. It will come even closer and even might become visible to the unaided eye later this year. Getting back to, let's call it Comet 21P for short. Some of its history, it was discovered on December 20th in 1900 by Michel Jacobini from France, and then was seen again or recovered by Ernst Zenner from Germany in October of 1913. That's its shorthand name of astronomers, is currently approaching the Earth and Sun at incredible speeds, actually about 14 miles a second. Its closest approach to both the Earth and the Sun take place on the same day, like I was saying, September 10th, when this comet will sweep past Earth at a completely safe distance of 36 million miles from our planet. That's nearly as far from us as the next planet outward in orbit, Mars, right now. But for a comet, that's relatively close, and that's why astronomers are excited. But there are more reasons. During the first half of September, 21P will be visible with binoculars. The comet is expected to reach a visual magnitude of 6.5 to 7. Of course, this means it will not be visible to the eye, just nearly. But for more than 2 weeks, from September 5th through the 23rd, that's starting next week, it'll be visible. The comet will hold court in a dark sky as it moves from Auriga through Gemini and into Monoceros. Besides those constellations, it'll also be passing in front of Camelopardalis and Perseus. But closest approach to Earth happens on the night of September 9th to 10th. That's September 10th. 6:27 UTC to be exact, on the same day as the comet's perihelion, and that will be Saturday. It says September 8th, maybe that's Zulu time, or I don't know, that's just what it said. But it's next Saturday, I guess. It's also a good night to get a glimpse at this celestial visitor. On that date, it will be visible in front of the constellation Auriga. Sent over a chart to Tom of the whole area, including Auriga, with the comet's path marked that I found online. So you can take a look at that at the website. And using binoculars or a small telescope, you will be able to find the comet. There's a fuzzy patch of light if you observe in the right direction. Now, the picture number 2, this shows the comet location on September 9th at 3 a.m. Central Time. It's seen from the central U.S. If you have a computerized telescope, you can point your instrument at RA, the right angle 5 hours, 38 minutes, 46 seconds, and declination of 36 degrees, 31 minutes, and 30.6 seconds. A few minutes before that time. And these illustrations, number 2 and 3, they were done using Stellarium. It's a very handy app or program that you can put on your computer or tablet or I guess phone. I'm not sure on that, but you can use that to help you while you're out observing. Although the nucleus of this comet is estimated to be just over a mile wide, the heat the comet is now feeling from the sun has caused it to develop a coma, or cometary atmosphere, about 180,000 miles in diameter. This means the comet now has an atmosphere about twice the diameter of our solar system's biggest planet, Jupiter. Some images taken so far show the comet's coma as a green color, which indicates it has cyanogen and diatomic carbon gases that glow in a green color when they're illuminated by sunlight. Using that chart, or any chart if you have an even more detailed one, using a small telescope, carefully observe which stars are close to the comet's nucleus, and then maybe look away and then compare the view just 15 or 30 minutes later, and you'll be able to detect its motion. This comet is traveling through space at 50,555 miles per hour relative to Earth. Luckily, it's passing through the Milky Way and will make a scenic pit stops near several bright, well-known star clusters. And the first one, late on the night of September 10th or 11th, these dates are double dates because it's the night of September 10th moving into the 11th. The comet passes very close to M37, the richest and brightest open cluster in Auriga. And then it passes directly across M35 in Gemini on the morning of September 15th for the Americans. The M35 cross will be amazing to watch for several reasons. The comet enters the outskirts of the cluster around 2:30 a.m. and exits about 6:30 a.m. and traveling at an apparent speed of 4.4 minutes per hour. Anyone with a small telescope can watch it slowly slide across this famous Messier object as the hours tick by. With a large scope, with 120 stars brighter than magnitude 13, it's quite possible that the comet's false nucleus, that's a bright condensation near the coma's center, will occult one or more of those stars along the way. And the binocular view should be unique, with the rich cluster appearing to sprout a tail. Meanwhile, if you don't want to wait 40 years, take a good look at this comet as its next best close approach occurs on September 18th, 2058. And as it orbits the sun, 21P produces some debris, causing a draconic meteor shower. In 2018, the draconids will probably be seen on the evening of October 7th or 8th, close to new moon. They're not known for being an outstanding shower in most years, but when a parent comet is nearby, the resulting meteor shower can be spectacular. We don't have any predictions for a spectacular shower yet, but it's definitely a shower worth watching. And if that comet wasn't enough, well, there's another comet approaching Earth, known as 46P/Virtanen, W-I-R-T-A-N-E-N. In December, this comet might be visible with the unaided eye, especially from dark skies. Closest approach to the sun for that one will be December 12th, and closest approach to Earth just a few days later on December 16th. That's outstanding about it, according to astronomers at the University of Maryland. This passage of the comet near the Earth will be the 10th closest approach of a comet in modern times. At its closest to us, the comet will be about 30 times the moon's distance. That's 7.1 million miles. And contrast that with 21P, the one in September. Its closest approach to Earth is 36 million miles. And estimates indicate that the new comet Virtanen might reach a visual magnitude of 3.5 to 6. And that would place it in the realm of visibility with the naked eye. Of course, you know, comets are a little bit tougher to see than the pinpoints of stars, but it should be quite a sight. And, of course, comets have been shown to be up early, of course, but anyway, I know you'll enjoy watching this object, and does anyone have any questions? Right then, let me find the script again, and okay, let's move in. Tom, would you like to take what you can see in the sky? KC50ZT.
Yes, I do. Hang on here, I have to reset, but here we go. From earthsky.org, tonight we have the following. Maybe we won't. Hold on. This comes from earthsky.org/tonight. In southeast before dawn, and you can go to W5FC.org. You'll get this information and the direct links for what we're looking at. The next few early mornings, September 2nd through the 4th, 2018, look for the moon to sweep through the constellation Taurus the Bull. This is one of our sky's most prominent constellations, and an easy one to identify, even from small cities. If you're a night owl, and you might spot the moon and constellation Taurus above your eastern horizon before bedtime. But the view of the moon and Taurus is best before dawn, when they'll be highest in the sky. But the moon guides your eye to the constellation Taurus, two major signposts, the bright star Aldebaran in the V-shaped face of the bull, and tiny dipper-shaped Pleiades star cluster, also known as the Seven Stars. So the moon will move out of Taurus after several more days and will leave the morning sky in about a week. You can always use Orion's belt to star hop to the star Aldebaran in the Pleiades and to the Pleiades cluster. From around the world, the morning of September 2nd, note that the lit side of the waning moon is pointing eastward, or in the direction of Aldebaran. Relative to the backdrop of stars of the zodiac, the moon travels 1/2 degree eastward per hour, or about 13 degrees eastward per day. That's because the moon, in its orbit, goes full circle in front of the constellation of the zodiac every month. About the same time and a date in the world's eastern hemisphere, you'll find the moon somewhat offset toward the previous day. In fact, as seen from Moscow, Russia, the moon will be pretty much due north of Aldebaran on September 3rd in the pre-dawn and dawn sky. Over, I'll get this right, Aldebaran in the northernmost regions of the globe on September 3rd. This will be the final occultation in a series of 49 monthly occultations of Aldebaran, started on January 29th of 2015. From here on out, from everywhere worldwide, the moon will swing to the north of Aldebaran every month for nearly 15 years, or until the next series of 48 monthly occultations begin on August 18th of 2033. I think that's a Thursday, and concludes on February 23rd, 2037. So the bottom line is, let the moon be your guide on constellation Taurus the Bull in early September of 2018. Then use Orion's belt to locate Taurus when the moon moves away. Moving on to U.S. Naval Observatory and what you can see in the sky this week, this is what they have. Some of this has passed, other parts have yet to be. The moon climbs through the dim stars of the autumnal constellations this week, gliding northward along the ecliptic before ending the week among the stars of the Great Winter Circle. Last quarter occurs on September 2nd at 10:37 Eastern Daylight. Luna forms an attractive triangle with the bright star Aldebaran and Pleiades star cluster during the pre-dawn hours of the second. One of the following mornings, you'll find the moon just east of Aldebaran. We mentioned that earlier. This is KE5ICX. You've probably noticed by now that the days are getting shorter and summer winds down through its last few weeks. During the month of August, the time of sunrise has moved some 25 minutes later, and sunset now occurs 30 minutes earlier over the course of the month. But it seems that this has been particularly notable over the past 2 weeks. We're now entering the time when the apparent position of the sun changes at its most rapid rate, and on average, sunset occurs about 2 minutes earlier each night at the latitude of Washington. While this means that we lose an hour's worth of outdoor time in the evenings, it's a welcome respite for sky watchers like me who like to turn in for the night at a decent hour. September finds the most radical change in the duration of daylight over the next course of the month, losing 1 hour and 12 minutes to the encroaching hours of twilight. Longer nights provide something of a respite of the stars of the summer sky. As the moon slips into the morning sky and the evening hours provide a ringside seat to the showpieces of the summer sky. By the end of the evening twilight, you'll find the heart of the summer Milky Way crossing the meridian, the brightest star clouds hovering directly over the southern horizon. By 11 p.m., the galaxy bisects the sky, providing a wonderful hunting ground for all kinds of celestial targets. Binoculars will reveal luminous clumps of star clusters and glowing gaseous nebulae. And under good dark sky conditions, you might also be able to trace out seemingly voids in the star clouds. The most prominent of these are the so-called Great Rift, which splits the Milky Way into two distinctive streams from near the bright star Debneb in the summer triangle spaces, asterism to scattered stars of the constellation Ophiuchus, the Serpent Bearer. These empty spaces are actually concentrations of non-luminous gas and dust, and the very stuff of stars and planets are made of to obscure the light of more distant stars in the galaxy's inner spiral arms. Small, lower-power, wide-field telescopes are best instruments to explore the Milky Way with, offering enough aperture to resolve stars in the billowing clouds and highlighting the dark voids. It's long-winded tonight. The early evening sky offers an exquisite parade of bright planets that span the southern sky. From west to east, you'll see Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars arrayed like bright beads on an invisible string. This will give you a good impression of the location of the ecliptic, the imaginary line that defines the apparent path of the sun through the constellation of the zodiac. Start looking for Venus on the southwestern sky shortly after sunset. She should pop into view almost immediately, and if the sky is very clear, you may even spot her while the sun is still up. She's brightening rapidly now as she begins her swing between the Earth and the sun. If you point a telescope at her, you'll see a dazzling crescent shape. Over the course of the month, her disk will grow larger as her crescent grows thinner. On the evening of the 31st and on the 1st, you'll find her just over a degree south of the bright star Spica. That's an inside joke. Jupiter is slowly creeping eastward from the second magnitude star Zobe Janubi in the constellation of Libra the Scales. He should also become visible during evening twilight and should be prominent in the southwest as Venus dips into the horizon haze. Old Jove is still a treat to view in any telescope. You can follow the motions of its four bright Galilean moons with just about any telescope, and if the conditions are good, the modest instrument will show a shadow of the innermost moon Io exiting the planet's disk as twilight deepens. Saturn stands on the meridian as twilight ends and is located in one of the densest star fields of the Milky Way. If you have binoculars, just look to the right of the ring planet, you'll see a pair of popularly known glowing knots of light. These are two signature deep sky targets of summer stargazers, popularly known as the Lagoon Nebula and the Trifid Nebula. You can if you can tear yourself away from the telescope view of Saturn, you'll find each of these glowing gas clouds and star clusters well worth more than a casual look. Oh yeah, they are beautiful. And finally, Mars brings up the rear of the planet parade, and despite his extremely low declination, you'll have no trouble spotting him. He's currently the second brightest planet after Venus, and his ruddy tint ensures that you won't mistake him for anything else. Surface features are once again becoming visible as the global dust storm subsides, and you should have no trouble spotting his south polar ice cap in a modest telescope. And with that, I'm going to send the net back to Miss Carolyn, KC5OZT from KE5ICX. Net is yours.
And thank you, Tom. Does anyone have any questions? Ben.
Looking for me earlier? I am here now, NT5TM.
Okay, Tom, were you looking for Tony a while ago?
Always looking for Tony, but he is checked in. That's all I think he was doing. KE5ICX.
Okay. All right. We are running. I'm just going to give a brief summary of the constellation this month, or this week. I mean, it's Aquarius, the water bearer. It's in the region of the sky referred to as the sea because there's some other constellations around it with names related to water. Pisces the fish, Eridanus the river, and Cetus the whale, and some others. It's the 10th largest constellation in the sky, and the brightest star in it is Beta, magnitude 2.9, yellow supergiant. And it has an interesting variable, R Aquarii, magnitude 7.7. And if you'd be interested in observing it, you can go to AAVSO and download charts to use. You can use the A and the B. They have an AB chart. The higher the letter, the fainter the magnitude it shows, but it's a very nice star to try to follow. Aquarius has some beautiful deep sky objects. The first one is M2, the globular cluster at magnitude 6.3. And it helps, it's easier to find. You find it 5 degrees north of Beta Aquarii. And has about 150,000 stars, and it's one of the largest globular clusters known. Another globular is M72, and it lies well beyond the galactic center. It's about magnitude 9.3, and it contains several blue giant stars, so it's considered to be young. It's it's not an easy one to observe. In a 10-inch telescope, it appears as a faint patch, but the stars can easily be resolved in a 20-inch telescope if you're lucky enough to have one. The third object is M73. And this is an asterism of 4 stars that appear close to each other in the night sky, but aren't really connected. It got an M number because it used to be treated as a sparse open cluster until as late as 2002. And then analysis showed the 6 brightest stars were not only at very different distances, and also they're moving in different directions. And it's only 1.5 degrees east of M72. And then our next beautiful object is NGC 7009. It's known as the Saturn Nebula. It's a planetary nebula discovered by Herschel. It's in larger telescopes. Its shape appears similar to that of the planet Saturn. It's just a degree west of the star New Aquarius on the chart. The central star emits strong ultraviolet radiation, and they believe that is what creates nebula's fluorescent green tint. The Helix Nebula, that's 7293, NGC 7293, is a large planetary nebula. Again, one of the closest bright nebula to Earth, only 700 light years away. Because of its appearance, the nebula has earned the nickname the Eye of God. And if you look at the picture, it sure does look like an eye. In small telescopes, it appears as a faint patch of light, but a bigger one, like a 6-inch, will reveal a dark center with a star. Last object, NGC 7252, it's a peculiar elliptical galaxy. It is faint. It's the product of a collision between 2 disk galaxies about 1 billion years ago. Its shape resembles a diagram of an electron orbiting the nucleus of an atom. And this gave it its name, the Atoms for Peace Galaxy. This was borrowed from Dwight Eisenhower's Atoms for Peace speech in 1953. Its center has a lot of hot bluish stars, young, and deep inside a pinwheel-shaped disk appearing like a spiral, but it's rotating in the direction opposite to the rest of the galaxy, so it's believed to be a remnant of a merger between the 2 galaxies. So take a look through Aquarius and you will find some beautiful deep sky objects, and I know you'll enjoy those. KC50ZT. Does anyone have any questions before we go on? Do we have any further check-ins?
Number 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Alan.
TNF, Johnny and Garland.
Right, the net recognizes N5WOI, William, and KG5TNF, Johnny. All right, we'll move on to recent astronomical discoveries. Brenda, if you're ready, go ahead, KC50ZT.
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you. The first article is entitled, How a NASA Scientist Looks in the Depths of the Great Red Spot to Find Water on Jupiter. For centuries, scientists have worked to understand the makeup of Jupiter. It's no wonder this mysterious planet is the biggest one in our solar system, by far, and chemically, the closest relative to the Sun. Understanding Jupiter is a key to learning more about how our solar system formed and even about how other solar systems develop. But one critical question has developed astronomers for generations. Is there water deep in Jupiter's atmosphere? And if so, how much? Joe Raker, an astrophysicist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, reported in a recent paper in the Astronomical Journal that he and his team had brought the Jovian research community closer to the answer. By looking from ground-based telescopes at wavelengths sensitive to thermal radiation leaking from the depths of Jupiter's persistent storm, the Great Red Spot, they detected the chemical signatures of water above the planet's deepest clouds. The pressure of the water, the researchers concluded, combined with their measurements of another oxygen-bearing gas, carbon monoxide, imply that Jupiter has 2 to 9 times more oxygen than the Sun. This finding supports theoretical and computer simulation models that have predicted abundant water on Jupiter made of oxygen tied up with the molecule hydrogen. The revelation was given that the team's experiment could have easily failed. The Great Red Spot is full of dense clouds, which makes it hard for electromagnetic energy to escape and teach astronomers anything about the chemistry within. It turns out they're not so thick that they block our ability to see deeply, says Joe Raker. That's been a pleasant surprise. New spectroscopic technology and sheer curiosity gave the team a boost in peering deep inside Jupiter, which has an atmosphere thousands of miles deep. We thought, well, let's just see what's out there. The data Joe Raker and his team collected will supplement the information NASA's Juno spacecraft is gathering as it circles the planet from north to south once every 53 days. Among other things, Juno is looking for water with its own infrared spectrometer and with a microwave radiometer that can probe deeper than anyone has seen, to 100 bars, or 100 times the atmospheric pressure at Earth's surface. Altitude on Jupiter is measured in bars, which represent atmospheric pressure, since the planet does not have a surface like Earth from which to measure elevation. If Jupiter returns similar water findings, thereby backing Joe Raker's ground-based technique, it could open a new window into solving the water problems that Goddard's Amy Simon, a planetary atmospheres expert. If it works, then maybe we can apply it elsewhere, like Saturn, Uranus, or Neptune, where we don't have a Juno, she said. Juno is the latest spacecraft tasked with finding water, likely in gas form, on this giant gaseous planet. Water is a significant and abundant molecule in our solar system. It spawned life on Earth and now lubricates many of the most essential processes, including water. It is a critical factor in Jupiter's turbulent weather, too, and in determining whether the planet has a core made of rock and ice. Jupiter is thought to be the first planet to have formed by siphoning the elements left over from the formation of the Sun as our star coalesced from an amorphous nebula into the fiery ball of gases we see today. A widely accepted theory until several decades ago was that Jupiter was identical in comparison to the Sun, a ball of hydrogen with a hint of helium. All gas, no core. Evidence is mounting that Jupiter has a core, possibly 10 times Earth's mass. Spacecraft that previously visited the planet found chemical evidence that it formed a core of rock and water ice before it mixed with gases in the solar nebula to make its atmosphere. The way Jupiter's gravity tugs on Juno also supports this theory. There's even lightning and thunder on the planet, phenomena fueled by moisture. The moons that orbit Jupiter are mostly water ice, so the whole neighborhood has plenty of water, said Joe Raker. Well, why wouldn't the planet, which is this huge gravity well, where everything falls into it, be water-rich too? The water question has stumped planetary scientists. Virtually every time evidence of H2O materializes, something happens to put them off the scent. A favorite example among Jupiter experts is NASA's Galileo spacecraft, which dropped a probe into the atmosphere in 1995 that wound up in an unusually dry region. It's like sending a probe to Earth, landing in the Mojave Desert, and concluding the Earth is dry, pointed out Joe Raker. In search for water, he and his team used radiation data collected from the summit of Mauna Kea in Hawaii in 2017. They relied on the most sensitive infrared telescope on Earth at the W.M. Keck Observatory, and also on a new instrument that can detect a wider range of gases in the NASA Infrared Telescope facility. It's a long article. I think I'm going to stop there. It's in ScienceDaily.com. You can go and look at it if you want to. The next article is entitled, Solar Eruptions May Not Have Slinky-like Shapes After All. As the saying goes, everything old is new again. While the common phrase often refers to fashion, design, technology, scientists at the University of New Hampshire have found that there is some truth to this mantra even when it comes to research. Revisiting some older data, the researchers discovered new information about the shape of coronal mass ejections, CMEs, large-scale eruptions of plasma and magnetic field from the sun that could one day help protect satellites in space as well as the electrical grid on Earth. In the 1970s, coronal mass ejections have been assumed to resemble a large slinky, one of those spring toys with both ends anchored at the sun, even when they reach Earth about 1 to 3 days after they erupt, said No Lugaz, research associate professor at the UNH Space Science Center. But our research suggests their shapes are possibly different. Knowing the shape and size of CMEs is important because it can help better forecast when and how they will impact Earth. While they are one of the main sources for creating beautiful and intense auroras, they also damage satellites, disrupt radio communications, and wreak havoc on the electrical transmission system, causing massive and long-lasting power outages. Right now, only single-point measurements exist for CMEs, making it hard for scientists to judge their shapes. But these measurements have been helpful to space forecasters, allowing them a 30 to 60-minute warning before impact. The goal is to lengthen that notice time to hours to make more informed decisions on whether to power down satellites or the grid. In their study, published in Astrophysical Journal Letters, the researchers took a closer look at data from 2 NASA spacecraft, WIND and ACE, typically orbiting upstream of Earth. They analyzed the data of 21 CMEs over a 2-year period between 2000 and 2002, when WIND had separated from ACE. WIND had only separated 1% of 1 astronomical unit, which is the distance from the sun to the Earth. So instead of now being in front of the Earth with ACE, wind was now perpendicular to the Sun-Earth line or on the site. Because they're usually so close to one another, very few people compare the data with both wind and ACE, said Lugaz. But 15 years ago, they were apart and in the right place for us to go back and notice the difference in measurements, and the differences became larger with increasing separations, making us question the slinky shape. The data points toward a few other shape possibilities. CMEs are not simple slinky shapes. They might be deformed ones or something else entirely. Our CMEs are slinky shaped but on a much smaller scale, roughly 4 times smaller than previously thought. While researchers say more studies are needed, Lugaz says this information could be important for future space weather forecasting. With the other missions being considered by NASA and NOAA, researchers say this study shows that future spacecraft may need to investigate how close to the Sun-Earth line they have to remain to make helpful and more advanced forecast predictions. All right, that's it. Back to net, WB50ZL.
Thank you for that, Brenda. Does anyone have any questions? Right, we'll move to space exploration and history. Tony, if you're ready, that is yours. KC50ZT.
Thank you, Carolyn. I'm sorry I got confused earlier. I'm still new at this. In recent space news, the Mars exploration rover Opportunity is under the gun. It will need to wake up before its deadline passes. Many of us may remember that before the Volkswagen-sized laser cannon-equipped Curiosity rover traveled to Mars, we had 2 golf cart-sized rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, and they did quite a bit of science. Spirit eventually got stuck and became too cold and lost contact with Earth, but until this June, Opportunity was still operating and radioing back science. Fortunately, a recent global dust storm on Mars has caused a problem for Opportunity. Since it is solar-powered, it has been unable to communicate with its handlers back on Earth because of a lack of electricity. NASA has announced a timetable. Once the opacity of the Mars atmosphere declines to a set level, they will continue actively trying to communicate with Opportunity for 45 Earth days. If Opportunity is not reached during that time, they will be doing, well, targeted Opportunity, passive listening. When antennas are not busy doing other things, they will listen to see if Opportunity is trying to reach Earth, but the project will no longer be fully staffed and there will not be active attempts to transmit commands. So I hope that Opportunity is in the full light of the sun over there on Mars and recharging its batteries because it is now facing a deadline. Mystery Science Theater 3000 will remember that Crow T. Robot once caused a horrible problem on the Satellite of Love when he forgot to read his instructions that said breach hull die. He used a pickaxe and poked a hole. Well, nothing quite that dramatic happened on the International Space Station this week, but they did have a leak, and an astronaut did temporarily have to plug it with their thumb. Fortunately, a 2-millimeter diameter hole in an object as big as the ISS does leave you a lot of time to figure out the problem. A combination of epoxy and duct tape have been used to fix the leak until a more permanent solution can be decided upon. This is kind of news and kind of a tip. Every now and then it's possible to see most of the solar system's planets in one night. Depending on whether you consider minor planets like Pluto and Eris to be, or Ceres and Vesta to be part of the system, well, you won't be able to see those very easily, but if your goal is the big ones, Neptune, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, well, you've got a few more days to give it a try. An amateur astronomer, Gianluca Massai, has been telling newspapers recently that he has completed his solar system grand tour. Some planets like Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn are easily visible just after sunset. Mercury is visible, well, just before dawn, so that's a little bit less convenient. Uranus are visible very late. Now, they're not easy to see from the big city, but while they are too faint to see with the naked eye, they're not especially faint objects, astronomically speaking. A small telescope or a large pair of binoculars will at least resolve them as a starry point of light. They don't really show a distinctive disk, so you do have to know what you're looking at. And of course, I strongly recommend that you have a look at your favorite astronomical star chart site. So have a look. You still have a few nights left here from what Gianluca says, where you can complete your grand tour if you can get out of the big city and bring a pair of binoculars. Pretty neat. A few fun anniversaries I'd like to mention. In August 27th, 1962, we had the launch of Mariner 2. Mariner 2 was the first spacecraft to successfully fly by another planet. Now, this was the early days of the space program, and so they were trying to solve problems largely by simplifying their space program for space probes. Mariner 2 did not even contain a camera. It contained some instruments for measuring the temperature of Venus in its cloud cover, and the main goal of the project was simply to see if it would work, if they could successfully navigate their probe to Venus and communicate with it. They did verify for the first time that Venus had no measurable magnetic field, and it confirmed once again the sad news that there was really no chance that Venus would have tropical jungles and dinosaurs. It was just too hot. I mentioned this news last week because in 1989, last week, Voyager 2's encounter with Neptune was just beginning. And this week in 1989, Voyager 2's encounter with Neptune was just ending. Voyager 2 was speeding away from our most distant ice giant, having completed a wonderful scientific program that really kept all the people like me who like space riveted. They were showing raw images on cable television as they came in. It was very exciting. Space anniversary I'd like to mention tonight is the Saturn flyby of Pioneer 11. Before there were the Voyagers, there were the aptly named Pioneers. Pioneer 10 was focused on a close encounter with Jupiter, and Pioneer 11 was aimed at Saturn. Pioneer 11 passed by Saturn on this day, September 1st, back in 1979, at a distance of just 21,000 kilometers from the clouds. Pioneer probes accomplished some really important milestones. Pioneer 10 was famous for establishing about, well, just how dangerous the radiation around Jupiter really was. Pioneer 11 focused on, well, the beauty and the interest of Saturn in close study of its rings. Also helped discover several new details of Saturn's complicated moon systems. In one case, well, almost by collision, it passed only 4,000 kilometers, that's 2,500 miles, from a previously undiscovered moon of Saturn, now named Epimensis. Smacking into the moon would have been a bit embarrassing. Pioneer probes gathered some of our first data about these big gas giant planets. They were unique in another way. Unlike later probes, they could not simply aim a camera at Jupiter or Saturn. The spacecraft were stabilized by spinning. So their cameras consisted of, well, what they called an imaging photopolarimeter. It took a single slit-like picture of the sky, and as the spacecraft spun, the entire sky was imaged. It's not a great way to get high-resolution images, but it was a way to get the first images we saw of these distant planets. Thank you for listening, NT5TM.
Thank you for that, Tony. And I will mention on observing the planets, I mentioned it earlier, but there's a program, Stellarium. I imagine most of you know about it. But, that's valuable to have on a computer or tablet, or I don't know if it's available on smartphones or not, but you can search for the planet and it'll show you where it is. And there's another app, everybody, that I like. It's on an Android tablet, but it's called ISS Space HD Space Live, and it shows where the space station is. And they have a camera that sometimes it's on, sometimes it's not, depending on if it's in daylight, and it shows what the station's passing over. It's a very interesting app. I don't know how widely available it is, but if you have Android, or that can, I think you'd like that. We're going to skip the satellite passages tonight. So, anyone have any questions about anything tonight? Do we have any final check-ins? Please come now.
Is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power.
Kilo 5, Kilo Oscar Bravo, Philip from Crandall.
Number 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving.
The net recognizes WB4-8MFI, Ted, K5KLB, Philip, N5H12T, Tom. All right. Thank you for checking in, and tonight we had 24 hams participating. Thanks to everybody for checking in, and we hope you'll join us here next week, and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. Remember, on this net, the sky's never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this net and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls, or send an email to nets@w5fc.org. And you can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So So until next Saturday night, this is KC5OZT, Carolyn, and I'll be closing the net at 10:29 p.m. and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. This is KC5OZT.
This is KE5ICX. Thank you, Miss Carolyn. We'll be back in 5 minutes to discuss Menace from outer space. 5 minutes and counting. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Afterglow Movie Night? My name is Tom. I'll be net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. What is it? I'm not sure. I think it was a TV show from the 1950s. I may be wrong. I may be right. Who knows? But I think it had Rocky Jones and the Space Rangers. If you don't know who they are, and I didn't, because I was born after this series came out, but it doesn't matter because we're talking about the movie version of the TV version of the, what do you call it? I don't know, Space Rangers. And we'll go forward. Menace from Outer Space, Rocky Jones and the Space Rangers. I couldn't find a narrative for the TV, for the movie this evening exactly, so I'm going to give you a premise of the show, the TV show that was based, the movie was based upon essentially an hour and 10 minutes, 20 minutes long. The show was based on the exploits of the clean-cut, square-jawed Rocky Jones, and best known of the Space Rangers. These were Earth-based space policemen who patrolled the United Worlds of the solar system. That's all capitalized, by the way. In the not-too-distant future, not capitalized, Rocky and his crew would routinely blast off in a V2-like chemically fueled upright rocket ship, the Orbit Jet XB2 X-ray something, which was later replaced by a nearly identical Silver Moon XB3 on missions to the moon's planetoids where the odds of success seemed remote, yet they would always prevail. Although they might destroy a rocket ship full of unseen bad guys, their space pistols were never fired at people, and conflicts were always resolved with fistfights. Take that, new life form. Although many strange worlds and new civilizations were visited, the alien characters usually spoke American English. That's proper words, by the way, and always appeared as normal humans, albeit in bizarre costumes and environments. The script writers did not appear to know the difference between planets, moons, stars, and constellations, so that these specific locations Rocky and his sidekicks visited are generally unknown to astronomers. Half-hour episodes were usually grouped into stories that consist of 3 chapters that were broadcast on successive weeks. A few of the stories were complete in one episode. Not tonight. From Wikipedia, it says Rocky Jones, Space Ranger, but tonight's movie is... what the heck is it? Let me think for a second. Yes, Menace from Outer Space. And with that, I'm going to take check-ins. Anybody who would like to say that or admit that they saw this masterpiece, I sent the links out last week. And now, I'll take low-power short-time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign name. Where you're transmitting from, please let me know if you saw Menace from Outer Space. Please come now. gosh, do I have to be first? This is N5HYP, Tom and Irving. Yes, we saw the movie.
Five, Tango Mike, Tony and Dallas. I saw the movie too.
I think you were doing short time or low power. I'm not short time. I saw the movie, but I am low power, 5 watts, KG5P, Mike in Richardson.
All right, let me take low power, short time, and everybody else. Let's see. N5HYP, Tom and Irving. Yes, you saw the movie. I'm sorry. NT5TM, Tony. I think he's in Dallas. Yes, you saw the movie. KG5P, Mike in Richardson. Low power, short time. Who knows? You're there, Mike. I got you checked in. Let's now take general check-ins. If you'd like to join us, come now with your call sign name. Let me know where you're transmitting from. Did you see Menace from outer space? Yes or no? Please come now.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Burl and North Dallas. I did see the movie.
This is N5BB, Bill in Fornax. Oh, excuse me, I mean in Irving. And right as rockets. Oh, buddy, I saw the movie.
Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn in Louisville, and I saw the movie.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James Carolyn. I did review the movie on my iPad.
Yes. Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Brenda from outer space. Yes, I did see it.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie.
This is November 5, Alpha Bravo Alpha, Andre in Dallas. I did not see the movie, but I'll be monitoring in the background.
All right, let me hold up there. I've got following folks. KFI-TSK, Burrow in North Dallas. Yeah, he saw it. N5BB, Bill in Irving. Yeah, he did too. KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn Louisville. Yep. KG5W Victor Lima, James in Irving. I think I got that right. Yes, you saw the movie. I've got you in the list, whether you want to be there or not. WB5OZ, Elvis, Brenda. She's from outer space. Yeah, she saw the movie. W5EBB, David, Dallas. Yep. N5ABA, Andre, Dallas. No, he didn't see the movie, but that doesn't mean you're exempt from additional comments. Anyone else would like to join us, please come now with your call sign, your name, your location, your QTH, in other words, and did you see, what was this movie? Yeah, that movie. Please come now. silence is golden, I guess. This is KE5ICX. We are talking about the movie, which is actually a condensing version of Rocky Jones' Space Ranger. This movie is Menace from Outer Space. So, I will start at the top of the list. We're going to talk about plot. This fine film, Menace from Outer Space, N5HYP. Tom, tell us what you think about the plot in this film.
Hey, this is Tom, N5HYP. Greetings to everybody on the net. I am really glad that Holly, Anna, and I watched Ready Player One before we watched this, so that I didn't feel bad about falling asleep during Ready Player One, because I did fall asleep during this latter part of Menace from Outer Space. Plot-wise, however, yeah, this was definitely a B-grade 50s sci-fi movie that was geared in a lot of ways to young people. It was very innocently done. It was actually, even after the series probably went off of whatever network it was on, it probably remained a staple on Saturday afternoon filler television, and probably various Saturday matinee movie theaters for the next number of years. Plot was pretty simple. You know, you appealed to kids because you had a kid. You had your scientist who knew everything. You had your rocket boy and his able assistant who could do anything. And then you had people from another race who looked just like the human who had showed up on their planet, who had evil desires on the planet Earth. So, from a plot standpoint, there just wasn't much that was exciting or new. This is N5HYB, back to net.
All right, thank you, Tom. I guess it's okay. There's more to come. NT5TM, Tony, your comments and Aaron's comments involving the plot on this fine motion picture. Please come out.
Developing galaxies. At least it was, in English and not dubbed from Italian or something. I watched this movie with a mixture of contempt and pleasure. Yeah, the plot, as judged by an adult, was ridiculous. Why do you launch rockets from a power substation? I kind of wondered if it was the same electrical station used in Beast from Yucca Flats. What does that have to do with, rocket fuel? Why would you lob unguided rockets from, planet Fornax to Earth as a way of communicating when you've learned English by listening to the radio? I mean, what if one of the rockets hit a city? That would start a war, not make you friends. Magical crystal rocks that were full of energy. I mean, what happens if there's an avalanche or even just a mudslide? Do we get an atomic explosion? Time, yep, I'm going to echo what N5HYP said. I could imagine that if I'd have been a very young man, maybe 8 years old in the 50s, I'd have really enjoyed this. We had, kid characters who they didn't have to get in the fist fights, but they were plucky and had fun and didn't have, anything over their heads they had to do, but got to play a part in the plot. The characters were all very familiar and recognizable and friendly. No complicated politics. The conspiracy against the Queen of Planet Fornax was ended by her simply pointing at a couple of people and saying, "Seize them." Very understandable. So I think had I watched this as 9-year-old Tony or 8-year-old Tony or maybe even 10-year-old Tony, I would have gotten a lot more out of the plot and had a good time. So bad for adults, but great for kids in the 50s. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony, and I forgot to ask for Echolink. I don't have a script for this one, so I will make sure. Echolink, stay tuned. I will get you at the end of the list here. NG5P, Mike, your comments about the script.
All right, K5RCX, KG5P. Well, Tony and Tom actually kind of covered it. Now, I like the movie, okay? Not because it was it'd be ridiculous to say it was a good movie. But you have to, as Tony had mentioned, you have to put yourself in the mindset of about a 6 or 7-year-old, which is very easy for me to do. The town I lived in Billings, Montana, we didn't have TV until about that time, 1954 or something like that, and I was the tyke, but I remember we'd watch anything on TV. Now, I don't remember this series at all, but we did have things like Flash Gordon, and we had Don Winslow of the Navy, and I'll talk more about that later, or at least how it relates to this movie. But this was kind of the 50s version of the superhero, that kids want to be today. They had the little kid who, okay, can I come along? Yeah, Bobby, you can come along to this dangerous planet that, I think you'd have Child Protective Services on you if you were to do this nowadays. But the little kid was given responsibility that average little kids don't get. He's responsible for the safety of adults and responsible for saving the planet and all kinds of stuff. And that's why this is exactly what would appeal to the 7-year-old. One thing, when I first started watching this, they all showed up in these Flash Gordon outfits, and that was another movie series at the time, was Flash Gordon. Now, this particular movie, I understand, was cobbled together from about, 4 different pieces or something like that. And like I said, I don't remember it, so I never saw the other movies in the series, but just pasted together. It was probably something you would see in the theater. But I don't know if it was ever in the theater. I think it was just made for TV. One thing I thought was kind of amusing was that they couldn't decide if what they were seeing was a meteor or a comet. They used the two terms interchangeably, like it's a meteor and it's a comet. Not it's a meteor or a comet. It was both. And then they got on whatever that moon was. They thought it was very hot, and it just turned out to be very temperate. Fornax, and had double gravity, but everybody was just bouncing around just like their regular gravity on Earth. I think if you weighed 180 pounds on Earth and you started weighing 360 on Fornax, you'd probably be moving a little bit slower. One other thing that I thought was kind of interesting, the little kid, little Bobby, had his little girlfriend, and he gave her his watch. It happened to be a pocket watch, not a Mickey Mouse watch. And he told her, he said, it won't work in this gravity. So he gets the time hack from the walkie-talkie, and it was now 1440. And he says, be back at 12 o'clock noon, which of course would be the next day. Now, how would he know that if he didn't have a watch? So then later he gives the watch to the girl, and he says, okay, you got to, call in or something when the big hand is on the 12 and all that. So it was a little bit disjointed there. But again, this is a typical movie for an 8-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 6-year-old viewing audience. And that was exactly what we had back in the early days of TV. So back to that, KG5P.
Good comments, and I have some at the end. And I won't forget Echolink. I forgot Echolink earlier. I'll get you at the end of the list, and you'll have comments. KFI-TSK Burl, you saw the movie. What did you think?
TSK. Well, just thinking back to when I was a kid, I don't really I don't know. It's like, would that really work in real life? But would a kid really have that much input, or would you be sent off to play? Other than that, I think that everything kind of resembles the 1950s, but I probably enjoyed it, but I wouldn't want to see it every week. KF5 TSK back to that.
All right, Burl. I was expecting this big, deep thing, but that's okay. I understand it isn't deep. And 5BB, Bill, you saw it. What do you think, plot-wise?
What plot? This is in 5BB. I took notes. I'm not sure which of you talk about the plot, but early in the movie, you saw them driving this spiffy sports car up to the Griffith Observatory, which I guess is where Professor Newton did his thing. Professor Newton, the guy that said, amazing, all the time. And the car they were driving was a Grantham Stardust. That's a Grantham Stardust. That company was in downtown Hollywood, and it had a fiberglass body. In the early to mid-50s, there were several cars. The Corvette was coming out, and several cars, mainly in California, that had these fiberglass bodies. It was a brand new miracle material. And so that was what they were driving, was a Grantham Stardust, state-of-the-art Ford science fiction-like car. Unfortunately, it was only there for one or two scenes, which was unfortunate because it was more exciting than the spacecraft and other things. Let's see, plot. Well, Space Ranger Rocky Jones, you notice his title is Space Ranger. So this is exactly the same thing as the Cowboys movies with Ranger Bob or something. So you had the Rangers that were the Cowboys, or whatever, going into space, becoming Space Rangers. So it's the same plot, basically, as your Cowboys kind of movies, and the other similar types of movies back from the late 40s and early to mid-50s. So you had this kid sidekick, you had the female sidekick, you had the adult sidekick named Winky, and the main guy was Rocky. And all I could think of the moment I heard that was the Rocky Raccoon. raccoon song. So that was sitting there going through my brain over and over again as I'm, which had kind of a cowboy's theme to it as I was thinking about this. What else? Let's see. Plot. They said that their power and energy was created by friction. You notice the energy was created by friction. Very, very bad science. Very bad physics. You don't create energy by friction. You're converting mechanical energy into heat, but you're not creating any energy that way. What else do I have to say? As far as the plot, early in the movie, they didn't have any seatbelts. Later in the movie, they had these fake, poorly fitting seatbelts they would put on. They didn't have any weightlessness. As was commented earlier by, I think, Tom, the gravity, even though it was twice as high, didn't cause them to walk around funny. More of the plot, Vina Ray, who, of course, is the normal space babe, just like in Buck Rogers, etc. You always have a space babe. Her comment first was, "Oh dear, I hope I brought the right clothes." She was being a bit sexist. And then later, of course, Rocky said to her, "Vina, haven't been putting on weight recently?" So she would go measure herself and find out that she was over 250 pounds because of the gravity. Oh boy, 1950s sexism. Guess that's it for now. Another plot thing, I guess. The phrases they would use that were so corny, like "right as rockets." This is Inside BB.
This is KE5ICX. I'm right as rockets. KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn, you saw the movie. What's your thoughts on the plot? Was it right as rockets?
I agree with a lot of what has been said, and I remember the 50s too, like some of you, and that's the kind of thing they would put on TV, and I don't remember seeing that particular show, but standard, you know, and of course science was, they just threw that out the window. I mean, taking just a short time to get to Jupiter, and of course the kids, and one thing though, the women, especially on that planet, seemed like, I won't say early women's lib, but the women were not just background characters. They were taking control. You know, I don't know what she was called, the queen or what, but giving orders, you know, and they're foreign strangers, you know, I guess probably representing Russia, you know, the Russian type menace, and we saw that in a lot of shows. Let me reset. But I think it was nice, you know, the kid wasn't just tagging along, he actually helped, you know, and if you think about a lot of the shows back then, the kid characters would really contribute to the plot, you know, or help the stars. But I mean, it's true to that time period. As much as, you know, looking back from now, you can see the weaknesses, but did anybody know those ships that they used? It seemed like I had seen that design before, maybe in some other movie, but I'm not sure. But anyway, it was enjoyable. It'd be enjoyable if you had a bunch of kids, you know, watching it, you know, and they'd get a kick out of it. And this is KT50ZT Friday.
Very good, Miss Carolyn. This is KE5ICXN Net Control for tonight's Afterglow Movie. We are talking about Menace from Space. This is the Rocky Jones Space Ranger TV series from the 1950s. So I do have one really quick comment. The spaceship, I think, I could be wrong, I'm going to play spoiler here, I think it's the same spaceship from When Worlds Collide. I could be wrong. But moving on, let me go ahead and let's see on the list. KG5W Victor Lima, James and Irving, your comments on this fine motion picture, which you did see.
This is KG5WDL. What struck me good on the movie was the car that showed up for 1950. That looked like something they had thought about for future design in later years. I kind of expected that that car would take off sometime down the road and go into space and meet up with the spaceships that were out there. Now, a lot of the movies seem to be still oriented toward the kids. They seem to have people focused toward them. Probably for the kids who watch the movie, sort of made me think they kind of when go out to outer space, the child labor laws went away too. It seemed like they weren't exactly forced to do the work, but enjoy the work that they were doing, help the adults. But this movie, I would say, if I actually watched through the whole thing, I probably would have looked for something else. I would say for the time that they presented it, which is made for the movies, not a TV, back to the net, KG5WDL.
Thank you, James. I had a hard time hearing you on that, but I think I got the gist. Let's see. Let me move on. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, you did see the movie, and you are in outer space. Please give us your synopses of the plot.
This is WB50ZL. Well, it was very formulaic for its day, and you know it is a movie that largely appeals to children when a child or the children are save the day, get to be the heroes. Kids seem to like that. So, you know, it's kind of written on that level for children. And that's one reason it was really kind of not very sophisticated, I think. One thing that bothered me a lot is they got to a point where they were going to run out of fuel. And I said, well, we can go back to Earth and refuel, or let's proceed onto this planet. We don't know if there's... We hope there are people there that can give us fuel. That is the stupidest plan I have ever heard. You don't know if there's people there. You don't know if they're friendly, if they're just going to eat you on sight, or if they have fuel, and if they do, is it compatible with your spaceship? I just thought, this is just insane. My thought on the spaceship is it looks like the one in Destination Moon. However, those astronauts had the good sense to carry space suits with them. These people didn't have any, and you're going to go to a planet where you don't even know what the atmosphere is like. And you don't have enough fuel to get back anyway, but you don't have a spacesuit. Like, these aren't very good astronauts, in my opinion. They're actually pretty stupid. But anyway, it was kind of fun, though. It was, you know, for its day, it was okay. Back to that, WB50ZL.
Thank you, Miss Brenda, and that was sort of helpful, maybe. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's movie, which is Menace from Outer Space. Maybe it's a menace from inner TV, I don't know. But in any case, we're going to soldier on. Next up on the list is W5EBB. David in Dallas, your comments on the plot.
The plot was a little bit busy. You know, the bad guys trying to take over the universe was kind of a subplot that was maybe not all that necessary. But hey, once the people you thought were going to be the bad guys turned out to be the good guys, you got to have another bad guy to replace those bad guys, right? And that's the way it works. But I actually enjoyed this movie. I mean, for what it was, it held my interest, and it was. You could imagine yourself at a theater, you know, just kind of spending the afternoon lost in fantasy, and, you know, this fit the bill. Now, the opening credits was quite a who's who of cast and crew of who's that. I didn't recognize any name on there. Now, one credit that wasn't present was someone in charge of continuity. You know, that person who makes sure the plot line is coherent, there's no inconsistencies. The watch, not supposed to be functioning, but yet it did, was one. Another was pre-launch. Whoever the secretary was said they had to remove all the weapons from it, except maybe for some kind of bomb. I didn't quite make it out. And yet later they were seen shooting some kind of projectiles at their black-clad nemesis. So, you know, that was an incontinuity in the movie. But I agree with what Brenda said about risk assessment being a little bit flawed. You know, these people who had just fired missiles at the Earth, but for some reason now they think they're probably going to be friendly to them and have a fuel source they can adapt to refuel and return to Earth. But, you know, all this was like 4 years before NASA was created. where risk assessment is always a top consideration. So maybe if they had some advisors, or even some engineers or physicists or somebody, they would have gotten things a little bit more accurate. But on the whole, it was an enjoyable movie. W5EBB.
Thanks, David. I'm going to reserve my comments. I don't disagree. N5ABA, Andre and Al. Oh, you didn't see the movie. You got any comments so far? Are we full of whatever? Andre, N5ABA from K5ICX. I think he ran off, or he's afraid to discuss this fine movie. I made a mistake. I did not include Echolink. I'm going to take Echolink right now. Please come with your call sign name where you're transmitting from. Echolink only. Please come out.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy in Sherman.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, James Fort Worth, and I saw the movie.
KF5 PDS, Miss Billy over in Sherman, KG5 PMN, James in Fort Worth. Additional check-ins over on Echolink. Please come now. I made a dreadful mistake and did not check in Echolink, and everybody's falling asleep. So I'll take the most enlightened folks over on Echolink who are still alive. KF5 PDS, Miss Billy, your comments on the plot this evening.
Great, thank you, Tom. I mainly just wanted to make sure I didn't miss the check-in round, so thank you for getting us in. I thought it was cute and campy, kitschy, the 1950s, kids sci-fi, and I agree with everybody saying, if I was 9 in, 1954, I would really enjoy this, and it was cool because it had boys and girls, even though the overt sexism was there. If you were a kid, that would have sailed right over your head. But it was cool. Thank you, Bill, for mentioning that car. I love the car. That car needed to be in the movie more, I agree. But thank you for telling us the name, the Grantham Stardust. I'm going to look that car up and get more familiar with it, because that was a work of art. That was a gorgeous car. And, yeah, it was cool to see Griffith Observatory. I recognized that right off the bat, too. But other than that, that was about all the good science in there. I did not like the kid just rubbing the crystals together for a few seconds and all of a sudden he's dropping them because they're so hot. That really bothered me. And yeah, the whole just shooting rockets at us to get attention, I agree. What if it hit something major? Then, yeah, we wouldn't have been friends with them after that. So, but they did show that there was an evil, person at work wanting the rockets to be launched, and the other people were, actually trying to, learn about us and become our friends. So, and then, of course, it's the usual serialized, so they took, I think, episodes 4, 5, and 6 of the series and put these together to to me, it did drag quite a bit, even though it's only an hour and 15 minutes long. To me, it was a long hour and 15 minutes. But, it was written with kids in mind, because it's like the kids were the stars of the show. They, were able to get stuff done. And I loved how Volaka was able just to go into her mom and say, there are evil men plotting against our father. And, boy, she just walked in and got stuff done. And I was just like, yes, that was awesome. And then on the flip side, the overt sexism to the space lady, when the little kid told her to lay off the mashed potatoes, I was just like, oh my God, my jaw just dropped. I just thought that was just like, whoa. And of course, to a kid, that'd probably be funny, but I was just gobsmacked at that. But something that's interesting that I wanted to bring to the net is, this is the 1950s, and one of my favorite authors is Isaac Asimov. And from 1952 to 58, he wrote a series, Lucky Star series, and because Doubleday Publishers came to him in 51, wanting him to write juvenile science fiction that could possibly be made into a TV show. And so Asimov came up with David Starr, Space Ranger. That was his first book that he published in the series in 1952. And then he published under a pseudonym, Paul French, because he was worried that they would take the books and make them into this bland, boring, cookie-cutter, awful TV that he was seeing in the 50s, and so he took on the pseudonym. And then the deal fell through, and so then he fessed up to being the author of the books and then published them under his own name after that. So I wonder, and those books started in 1952, so I'm sure they were a direct influence on this. Even though this was not the remake of the books, I wish that they had made those, because then the science would have been impeccable for its day. And Asimov even admitted he, used correct theories, and then later on wrote some afterwards to the books saying, that, after certain information came to light, science in the books was no longer relevant because of new discoveries. And so, that's one thing about Asimov. He, always wrote correct science and wanted to introduce young folks to science, so that was one of the aims of his books. But, you could tell this was an influence, that the show had to have been influenced because it was, Rocky Jones, Space Ranger. But the science was very poorly done because obviously Asimov had nothing to do with this show. But that was just an observation that immediately jumped to mind when I saw that it was called Rocky Jones Space Ranger. I immediately thought of David Starr, Space Ranger, and then, of course, later books they used his nickname Lucky. So I think that, it was a direct lift. But other than that, I thought it was campy, kitschy, cute. It definitely is not the worst thing that we've seen. And then, of course, the ending, I think you could tell it was going to continue on, but in typical serialized fashion. So anyway, those are some comments that I have for now. I can bring more in another round. This is KFI PDS, back to net.
Thank you, Billy, and I see additional folks coming in on Echolink, so I will add you to the bottom of the list here in just a minute. Excellent comments. KG5, PMN, James, over in Fort Worth, your comments on the plot for Menace from Outer Space.
This is Kilo Go 5, Papa Mike, November, James over here in Fort Worth. Saw the movie, and I thought the plot was just pretty typical of all your serial, even westerns, and even up into the 60s on like Batman and Robin, where the good guys versus the bad guys, and the good guys always come out on top. Thought there was kind of a kind of funny when the girl and boy were talking, and I can't remember the first thing he told her, but she knew the word but didn't know what the meaning was. And then he said something about vacation, and she asked, what's a vacation? And he had to explain that taking the summer off out of school, I think. I thought the car looked like a TR3, a Triumph, one of the British sports cars, but I guess I was wrong with that. And I'll send it back to the net, KG5PMN.
Alright, you win the prize. Ding, 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 ding. It looked like a TR3, a British Triumph to me as well, but it wasn't. I positively identified with that. Thanks for your comments. I'll take additional check-ins over on Echolink, and then I will go to regular check-ins. Anybody over on Echolink who has popped in who would like to discuss tonight's movie, which is Menace from Outer Space. This is the Rocky Jones Space Ranger television series from 1954. If you'd like to join us, please come now. We'll take regular check-ins. Anyone who has not joined us this evening who would like to do so, we were talking about Rocky Jones Space Ranger from 1954. If you'd like to join us, whether you've seen it or not, it's okay. Over here, RF check-ins come now.
This is KG5ZYW. Checking in, and I got 2 confessions. I've never heard of it and never seen it.
See, I got KT5GYW. You haven't seen it? You never saw it? That's okay. I didn't see it until the other night, well, last night for the first time. If you don't mind, can I get your name and where you're transmitting from? Kilo Golf, Golf Yankee Whiskey. I think I got it right. Let me know. Give me your name and where you're transmitting from.
G5 ZYW, and I'm transmitting from Irving, Texas.
All right, let me make sure I got this one right. Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Yankee Whiskey over in Irving. Is that right? I just want to make sure I get the notes right.
I'm just on the 2 meter. I'm not on Echolink or anything, but yeah, that's correct. My name is Marla. I'm interested. I love sci-fi movies. Never thought about watching some of the old cult ones before, but you might be getting me interested in some of the older ones now.
Right, excellent, Marta. Just wanted to let you know we do this every Saturday night at 10:30. We go from 10:30 to probably midnight. That's pretty normal for us. We talk about goofy science fiction films, good science fiction films occasionally. We will even do a non-science fiction film occasionally. So you are more than welcome to join us. One of the things that we do, if you're interested, if you're on Facebook, you can go to Afterglow, that's one word, movie, the second word, Afterglow Movie, and sign up, and you'll find out what the movie is. We always mention it here at the end of the net, but if you're interested, there's always a link or somehow you can get in. If you don't like Facebook, just send an email to Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray KE5ICX at yahoo.com, and I'll send you out the latest movie, usually Sunday, Monday, depending on how busy I am. Because I get busy at times. And you can find out what movies. We try and do movies that are available on the internet, usually through YouTube or other methods, but they're usually movies that are in the public domain or are available. So I just thought I'd mention that. Welcome aboard. KG5ZYW. Marta, it's nice to have you here. Let me go ahead and go to the top of the list. We're going to talk about characterization. Probably not a lot there, but that's okay. Anyone with characterization, I'll start at the top of the list. Oh, I have my own comments. Wait. I have my own comments on this one. First off, I get what everybody was talking about as far as, this is for kids. But I thought the most important thing is that they give the kids a front and center comment, an opportunity to do things, an opportunity to have, a deterministic approach to things. I think that kids need to have something that gives them an opportunity to see what they can do. And I think this show gave that opportunity. In this case, I think that making it possible for the kids to have, let me reset. Opportunity to be able to decide things on their own, to have maybe not adult actions that they can do, I think is important, because as you're growing up as a kid, you always have this thing going on in your head. What can I say? What can I do? How can I be better, or how can I be accepted by society? And I think that this gives them an opportunity to do so. And then going forward, I think this gives you, your scientists, your thoughtful folks who can make things happen in the future. I don't know, I always have this thing with kids and giving them an opportunity to excel and be really great technologically and philosophically going forward. If we don't do that for future generations, what are we worth? And so I have a soft spot for stuff like this, giving kids an opportunity to really see where they can excel into the future. I don't know. That's just me. All right, let me go to the top of the list. Let's talk about characterization, such as it was. Tom, N5HYP, you're stuck because you're the first person who checked in. Characterization, how was it?
This is N5HYP. Now I'm on crossband. Oh, gosh, you make this sound, you almost make this sound like a worthwhile venture, because the kids were deterministic and had something adult to do. Actually, they saved the day. Characters basically were no deeper than your average 1930s radio serial for kids. So yeah, that's about it. Yes, 50s sexism. My mouth was a gag when they pulled the little gag on the woman by having her weigh herself, and then the comments the kid made. Yeah, aside from that, there wasn't much to the characters. No real depth. Winky was a stupid character, but he kind of was patterned after the the stupid Navy, or the Navy seaman type guy from any 40s war musical. That kind of is where I saw his character. That's all I've got, and I got to get to bed. We'll find out what the movie is next week. Bye-bye, guys. 73 all. This is N5HYP with KC5Q. I'll end on the side. Bye-bye.
I just wanted to correct you. It's not Marta. It is Marla, M-A-R-L-A. Sorry about butting in, but I figured you'd want to know the correct name for your files.
Very good. I have Tom, N5HYP, and then I've got Marla, KG5ZYW. Marla, I have corrected it, and thanks very much for checking in. Let's see. Next on the list is, I'm looking, N5BB. Mr. Bill, your comments on characterization.
Okay, this is N5BB. Well, first, I have to comment about the comments about spacecraft design. I went and looked at some pictures and online, and in Destination Moon, the spacecraft Luna, all the fins are back at the back. On the Rocky Jones Space Ranger, there's two sets of fins. The rear fins, and there's some other fins, about 40% up the spacecraft. So they're both spacecraft that have fins on the side and a point up at the front. But other than that, they're quite a bit different. The fin designs are different. So no, they're not exactly the same. There were a lot of early science fiction kind of movies and TV things and books where the spacecraft were all similarly shaped. They look like different versions of V2s, really. Maybe thinner or whatever, but they were basically the same long tube with a point at the front, and on the rear there were fins. Anyway, regarding characterization, well, you notice that the scientists are always Professor this and Professor that in all these movies. And there was the good professor, Newton, the one that said amazing all the time. And there was the bad professor that acted like he had cleaned up his act, but he didn't. And that was Professor Cardos. So they were always professors, were those science guys, either the good ones or the bad ones. As far as characterization, Rocky Jones was the standard kind of ranger character, whether it was a cowboy ranger or forest ranger, space ranger, they're all the same. Rugged, good looks, not fazed by anything, never scared of anything, kind of proud, but not a boaster or anything. They never go crazy. The sidekicks always go crazy. And the sidekicks always have the funny names like Winky. And the sidekicks always get drunk or do bad things. In this case, Winky fell over and nearly crashed him early in the movie. He fell over and hit some controls. So the sidekicks always get him into trouble, and the main guy, Ranger, always fixes things up. Let's see, other characterization. Office of Space Affairs people were the guys back in the big office in Washington or whatever. They always are the same also. Just similar characterization of other movies. What else? Let's see, characters. Ranger Griff and the bad guys. Didn't they all have like dark uniforms on? The good guys always have lighter uniforms. The bad guys always have black or dark uniforms. And what else? They're spies. They're doing underhanded things. They're unpredictable. The good guys always do the same thing, and they're predictable. The bad guys are unpredictable when you can't trust them. Characterization. Oh, Bobby the Kid and Valaka, the girl, they were also standard kind of lost in space kind of characters that were trying to do some complex things. Bobby had some formulas for landing or something that were gobbledygook, but he said them in 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And I messed up on my list. My notes were disheveled, so I'm going to go back up. And I appreciate your comments, Bill. NT5TM, Tony, you're out of order, but that's my fault. Go ahead, your comments on characterization.
Thank you, Tom. And like N5H5P, I think I have hit my fatigue limit and will have to check out after this round. But I've enjoyed listening to what everyone says. That's really even more fun than watching the movies. So thank you, everybody. Brenda, I have to agree with liking what you said about that gas gauge. They even made sure to show us that. Boy, what a bunch of doofuses who, we don't have enough fuel to get back, but let's go most of the way there anyway. What did they think? The plane's going to run out of gas so it can never land? It'll just freeze up in the air? Maybe that was meant to create extra sympathy because it was easy for kids, or extra suspense because it was easy for even kids to see what a dumb move that was. And Billy, I really liked your comment about Isaac Asimov. Yes, I have one of his books, one of his early adult novels, The Stars Like Dust. He has an author's note apologizing because when it was written, it seemed likely that a planet could have an atmosphere that had a great deal of oxygen but no carbon dioxide. And by the time it was published in paperback, that was known to be very, very unlikely. There have been more studies of chemistry in space, and they realized that an atmosphere of mostly carbon dioxide was actually much more likely than an atmosphere with a lot of oxygen in it and no CO2. So yes, I've got a few of his early books that have those author's notes apologizing for the way theory changed. He would never have let them get away with that. bad science in the show. He would have wanted it to be fun for kids, but still accurate. And yeah, the adult characters were absolutely forgettable. Her shock at her weight of Vina, who I couldn't even tell she wasn't named Tina. Her little, her clothing, her attitude that they gave her, and she was just a little annoying character that was purely meant to be something the men would act upon. It was really nice that they did let both the kids and the people from Planet Fornax, both men and women, be very plucky. It was really striking how yes, they could mistreat Vina, but the women on the other planet were autonomous and people took their orders, and it was very different. Maybe it was to show how otherworldly they were. Other than that particular device, and again, I was happy with the kid characters. I think a lot of kids would have been happy to identify with those. But everybody was pretty generic, just as everyone else is pointing out. NT5TM. Good night, everybody. I've really enjoyed listening.
Thank you, Tony. You can retire now. I understand. Thanks for your comments. This is KE5ICX. I guess, net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. NG5P, Mike, you have comments about, I don't know, characterization. I know you have comments. Go ahead.
All right, in KE5ICX, KG5P, well, I don't have much to say about the characters that everybody doesn't already know. Asimov was mentioned. Yeah, he wrote under a pseudonym, Paul French. The reason was because if they ended up making a bunch of bad movies out of his kids' books, he didn't want to be associated with them. Asimov, in his autobiography called A Memory at Green, is quite an interesting book. Talks about his whole life, and then he wrote another one after that. I mean, not after his life, but after that book. He said he wanted to be careful that he didn't kill off a character that he might need later. This is particularly true when he was doing the Foundation series, which was just really wasn't written as a book. It was written as just an installment in the Astounding Science Fiction magazine. And he also said, he had his great computer he called a multivac, and he knew about univac computers. He was a biologist. He wasn't a engineer or anything. But he thought that the univac had one vacuum tube. So to outdo that, he had a multivac that had lots of vacuum tubes. But anyway, the characters, of course, are all pretty flat. Nobody ever heard of them except one, and that was the Dr. Professor Cordos character, who was played by a guy named Nestor Paiva. Now Nestor had been around in radio for years. I mean, he's almost as ubiquitous as William Conrad as far as being in a lot of radio shows from the 30s and 40s. I first remember him in, I'd mentioned Don Winslow of the Navy, which was a kind of a serial that was run on TV when we first got TV and when I was a kid. And Don Winslow, after he did the Navy, he got drafted into the Coast Guard or something. So we had another series called Don Winslow, the Coast Guard, and Nestor Paiva played the Scorpion, who was Don Winslow's arch nemesis. Now, this was in 1943, so it was after World War II had already started, but most of the villains weren't really nations. They were just like a renegade kind of villain, sort of like the Dr. No or Charlie Chan in those old movies. In fact, Nestor Paiva had actually been in some of the Charlie Chan movies as well. And their villains were renegade outlaws in not, not Japan or not Germany or anything like that. But Nestor Paiva had been in radio, and then he'd been in a million. If you look him up on IMDb, you'll see him in 11 million TV series that were made back in that time. Mr. Ed, he was in the Lucy Show, and you can go down there and you'll recognize the TV shows even though you won't recognize him. He was also in The Revenge of the Creature, which was the remake of The Creature from the Black Lagoon. So he was about the only actor of note. And the only reason I remembered him is because I'd seen him in a million other movies. Other than that, I don't really have any more to say that hasn't already been said. So back to that, KG5P.
Mike, and I appreciate your comments, KG5P from KE5ICX. We're talking about Menace from Outer Space. This is the Rocky Jones Space Rangers series on TV, 1954, I think. Let me go to KF5 TSK Burl, your comments about characterization on this fine series.
That's KF5 TSK. Well, one thing I would say is, Rocky Jones really had this persona that, he could just walk on water, no matter what, he knew what to do. He was always anticipating everyone's next move. I would say, looking at it right now, it would be rather boring. Maybe it might have been more enjoyable in the 50s, but I wasn't really impressed with it. K5 TSK back to net.
Overall, I agree with you, and rightly so, but it was good that you had comments on this. All right, TC50ZT, Miss Carolyn, you saw our movie, in quotes, TV series. What did you think about characterization from KE5ICX?
Well, it was pretty standard, but okay, as I was watching it and watching the kid help out, it made me think of Lost in Space. Like, I don't know if they had ever seen it, whoever developed Lost in Space, but it's having a kid help and really be, it just crossed my mind while I was watching it. But, and then, like I said a while ago, the women, the queen of Fornax and, taking control and like I say, this was, the 50s, and women's lib and stuff, but I think I heard, the villains that want to take over, didn't they mention some other world, like they weren't from Earth? But I don't remember the name that I heard, or if they meant another just a made-up country on Earth, but weren't very impressive villains, you might say. Let me reset. And then shoving people around some. They didn't much. But I like the professor, you know, that was a nice touch, actually having him along on the ship. Because they didn't mention really having computers much. And I was struck by the communications equipment. Those made me think of the car phones back, well, I don't know how long ago, but before they had cell phones, you know, and a lot of the communications equipment was sort of comical. And the names they called them, what, videograph or something, and it just struck me as funny there. But it's enjoyable. It's not one you want to see over and over, but I guess that about sums it up for me. KT50ZT.
Thank you, Miss Carolyn. And let's see. What we'll do is I'm going to take one more comment. KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima James. Your comments on characterization.
This is KG5 Victor Lima. Characterization, I would say could you explain characterizations that kind of listen to everybody else and I kind of got sidetracked.
I think your battery has gone dead. You want to try one more time?
KG5 with Victor Lima. Does this sound any better?
That is much better. Go ahead. I'm turning it up. I know you have a weak signal, but I can read you. Go ahead.
Okay, on characterization, you described, you asked me what the characterization refers to, because I'm kind of been listening to everybody else, and I haven't got kind of sidetracked.
Hey, James, I think you're citing it over. So let me go ahead. We are getting to the top of the hour, the midnight hour. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to any comments. Anybody who has any comments about tonight's movie, Menace from Space, please come now with your call sign. EBB. David, you have the final comments. Go ahead.
Well, as far as characterization, For the male characters, the main traits required of an astronaut appear to be look good in a James Dean white T-shirt, one size too small, have good hair, which features a widow's peak, and sculpted, manicured eyebrows. And technically be able to read an altimeter and read the side-by-side, I don't know what it was, maybe the spirograph display of the left booster and right booster, or maybe it was left bank and right bank, I'm not sure. But the Winky character, Winky, come on. He looked like Eddie Munster, and of course Rocky and Winky reminded me of Rocky and Bullwinkle. The insignias on their uniforms kind of look like a magic 8-ball with wings flying sideways, or maybe a red robin that got stuck inside a black magic 8-ball with the head poking out and the body down at the end. But in contrast to that, you had the Black Widow insignia for the ones on the Florex or whatever that place was, indicating, of course, that that's where you'll find the bad guys. But in special effects, the Lysiju's figures were actually pretty cool, and they mastered the art of the special effect of picture-in-picture very well. Let's see, what else? I think that's probably about it. Oh, and of course, 20/20 vision. Of course, you got to have that so that your vision is super stellar. One other comment regarding the slight about mashed potatoes. I think what was more of an insult was that someone who is spacefaring on a spaceship doesn't know the difference between mass and weight. But, Tom, to your comments, that does stimulate the thinking of the kids watching this, and I appreciated your comments about, it does inspire young kids to learn more about science, and it did achieve that in sort of a roundabout way. Oh, one other thing. They step out of the spaceship and they see pyramids. I didn't see any pyramids. All I saw were elephant-sized gummy bear moon globs, which I guess is a special effect in a way. That's it. W5EBB.
Thank you, David. And I appreciate your comments very much. So, anybody else have any additional comments tonight? Please come now. This is KE5ICX. Next week's movie, if you're interested, is the 1961 movie called X-15. Yes, X-15. This film is available, very good quality, over on YouTube. I think it's in public domain. If it's not, I don't know. But I think it is. About flying into space in 1961. So, hope everybody will be interested in seeing it. I'll post it over on YouTube well, not YouTube, but over on, where am I going? Oh, Facebook, and then also on email. So if you're interested, you can send an email to ke5i6@yahoo.com and say you're interested in being a part of the Afterglow Movie Net, and I'll put you there. Otherwise, sign up over on Facebook and Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, and I'll get you in on the count. All right. I'm tired. Oh my, it's been a long night. Anybody have any additional comments before Tom calls it a night? Please come now. Good night, everybody. Enjoyed tonight's net. It was, as always, unpredictable and fun. And I think that's really cool about this net at 12 o'clock at night. 7:30, everybody. We'll see you next week. 10:30, be there, be square. This is KE5ICX saying good night and bye-bye. And returning this net to normal amateur use. Thank you, David. Bedtime. Bye-bye.